Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning in from to the online teaching show. My name's Tim Gascoigne, and I'm so happy that you're here watching live. If you're watching the replay, let me know in the comments below. Would love to see where you are tuning in from. It really is a global audience, teachers from all over the place. And yeah, please say hi in the chat if you're watching live. You'll see it on the right-hand side. And if you're on Facebook, you can approve StreamYard to show your name just below the video. So welcome. And first one in the chat was Mary in sunny Ontario. That's good to hear, Mary. And we've got Deborah in California. Very cool. And Julie in Medellin, Colombia. Oh, awesome. Another great digital nomad spot, actually. What do you do, Julie? Do you teach online? Beautiful and sunny day here, too. And Meredith is tuning in from Georgia. Awesome. Little stormy today. Okay. Headed to sunny Key Largo tomorrow. That sounds really great. Hello, Elizabeth. So I always try to have different guests on the Monday show and interview them and find out about their online teaching journey and hopefully help you in your journey. It's always inspiring, I think, to hear other people's stories. So if you're an online teacher, I say this every week, but if you're an online teacher that wants to come on the show, you've got a story to tell, maybe you've got some successes with teaching online, something to share with the broader audience, you are always welcome to email me. The email address is in the description of this video down below. And anything that we talk about today will also be down below as well. So if you're wanting to join my Facebook group, Going Solo Independent Teaching, wanting to know how you can work with me or some of the things that Krzl and I are going to talk about. So I have found a fantastic guest today. Krzl is in Brazil. I'm going to bring her up in just a second. And we connected a week ago, and she just does so many cool things. And I think you're going to be really inspired and enjoy the show. So without further ado, let me welcome Grisel. Hello.
Hi, team. Thanks for having me. Good morning
Oh,
from
I'm so
Brazil.
glad. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Yeah, so you're in Brazil, right? So what time is it there?
Oh, actually, here it's already 11 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so you've got your day started. That's good. So
Yes,
yeah, I'd love for you to tell everyone a little bit about yourself. I know you're an online teacher, so you can tell us about what your online teaching journeys look like as well.
sure. Well, hi everyone. My name is Grisel. I'm an online English teacher. So I'm actually from the Philippines, but
Yeah.
I've been living in Chile for almost 10 years, and I
Wow.
got inspired to travel and teach English online. Actually, that was when the pandemic started, like 2 years ago. Yeah. So. But to tell you a little bit about my English teaching journey, so I've been teaching English for almost 10 years now. Yeah, so I actually started teaching English virtually 10 years ago because my first side gig was when I was still in my home country. And then my first students were Japanese students. And then after that, I moved to Chile and I switched to teaching in the physical classroom. And I worked for several language institutes, and then I decided to go independent and start my own English teaching business there. So I've been teaching English independently for I think around 7 years. And when the pandemic started, I switched back to the virtual classroom, and I've been teaching English online since then.
Wow, you're so inspiring. I think there's a lot of Filipino teachers who watch the channel, and I just need to ask you, what made you go from the Philippines to Chile, or was it Brazil?
Oh, so actually, yeah, Chile. So
Okay.
I moved right. Well, to cut the long story short, I went there for love. So, but
Okay. All right.
you
There
know,
you go. There's nothing wrong
but
with that.
yes, things took their turn. So yeah, and then I stayed there. And yeah, one of the reasons why I also stayed there was surf, honestly, because I started surfing there in Chile, and then I loved being there, and I actually love my life there. So yeah, I've been living there for almost a decade.
That's just awesome. Yeah, I mean, I also moved overseas from my home country. I've been in Asia for almost 13 years, but we kind of did like a different direction, right? I came east and you went west.
Right.
Yeah. So, and you said that you were working. So, you got your start teaching online in the Philippines. Is that correct?
That's right. So I actually
Okay.
decided to teach English online because, so honestly, back then I was saving money to go to Chile. Like I was literally saving for my flight tickets, and
Wow.
I mean I was making money there because I used to work for a TV station there, and
Okay.
yeah, but I realized that I had to have a side gig, so I started looking for online jobs or like part-time jobs that I could do after work hours or on weekends. So I found an online English teaching job. So it's a company based in the Philippines, but they get their students from Japan. So and
Okay.
the teachers are from the Philippines. So I applied and I had training there, and then I started teaching English after my work hours and then on weekends. So that was great. It really worked for me. It helped me save money really, like to come
Right.
to South America.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, you had like you had a goal, you had financial goals, and you were really hustling to, yeah, to make it work. I think that that's awesome. Like for teachers that might be, I know a lot of Filipino teachers are interested in teaching online or wherever you are in the world. And you said you were teaching Japanese students for a
Hmm.
company, right? How
Yes.
did you? And then you also talked about teaching independently. So you're someone that, like, you went from a company, maybe they didn't pay you as well, and now you're doing it on your own. How did you make that switch? Tell us, like, give us the behind the scenes to that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a very good question. So, when I moved to Chile, so my first job was an English teacher, right, for online, for sorry, for English institutes, and well, I had many students because how it works there, or at least in most English language institutes, there is they give you students, and then you travel to their offices or
Oh,
houses. Right. So yeah, so that was my first job. So I traveled around Santiago, which is the capital of Chile. And
mhm.
yeah, so I went to different places there, and it was great because I got to know the city, and I worked. I was able to take the public transportation everywhere,
Yeah,
and right, yeah, that was fun. And then I started meeting like different students, and then after, for instance, like whenever we finished a course, they were always like, oh, like can you give private classes to my friend or to my son, or to like, and I just said yes basically to everyone.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, so when I had like a lot of private students, I realized that okay, I think I'm ready to go independent. It was like stepping out of my comfort zone, honestly, because
I bet.
like not working for a language institute, and building your own client base is really like a different story.
Yes. Most teachers didn't go to school for marketing and
Yeah.
business and stuff like that. So for sure. I mean, that's what I do almost every day, is helping teachers to do the same thing with a slightly different market, mainly with the Chinese market. But what what did that look like? I mean, all of a sudden you've got to maybe charge your own rates, like find your own lesson materials, like get payments and all that type of stuff. It's so different than when you're working for a company. How did you figure all that out on your own? Did you just research, or what steps did you take?
Oh, that's a great question. So, and yes, it's actually one of the challenges of going freelance or going independent. So, yeah, so because I had some years of experience working for online English institutes, and I also got my TOEFL certificate. So, I also learned how to create my own materials, and I got my because when I worked for English institutes, so they usually give you materials or books, right? So I had an idea of what to teach, or I started learning about how to organize your classes better. And then after that, I started researching for better materials, for better books. So it was an investment that I had to make. And after that,
Mhm.
I developed my own curriculum, courses, even my evaluation and needs assessment. So yeah,
Wow.
right. I prepared all of those, and I created my own materials, because I learned a lot from other language institutes as well, but like I wanted to incorporate my own style, my own teaching strategies as well. So I made sure that they were ready. So when I started getting students, so I was ready, like, okay, this is how it works. Because students, when you get new students, they usually want to know first how your classes work, because they're kind of clueless. You can probably relate to this, about how your classes work or how they're gonna learn English with you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
And I think when one thing I tell teachers is it's really important to, like like you said, sort of make those decisions in the beginning, get everything ready, even if you don't have any students, because when you do get a student, if you're not prepared and you don't have the answers to the questions, it's really easy to just say, well, I'm not ready yet. And then you put it off more and more. And so I like that you kind of took what you liked, I guess. Maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, but took what you liked from the companies and figured out what you didn't like and sort of made, your own kind of lesson structure from that and what you enjoy teaching and those kinds of things, right? Which I think is
Yes.
so. How did you grow your student base, and what are you teaching? Are you teaching kids, adults? Tell us about like what you're actually teaching.
Right, sure. So most of my students nowadays are adult students. So a lot of them are business professionals. So they usually study English or take classes to improve their English because they want to use English in the workplace. So
Okay.
many of my students work for multinational companies, or they have clients from other countries, right? Or they work with clients abroad. So yeah, most of them are adults. However, I also have students from other age groups. Like I have some teenagers. It's actually, yeah, incredible. Like I have this student, and I've been teaching him for around 3 years, and I think we started having classes when he was about 11, and now he's
Okay.
14. So I've been able to see his,
Cool.
like his progress and how he has improved
Yeah.
so much.
I okay. I have a one up on you on that one. I had a student in China when he was 5. I've told this story before,
Mhm.
and I'm still teaching him, and he's 17.
Oh, that's so
12
cute. You
So it was about 11 years ago. He's 16, I guess. Yeah, about 11 years ago. He was in my first grade class, and now he's about to graduate high school. It's a cool story, but it is so neat when you can have those long standing connections with your students. So you teach adults. Okay, maybe I didn't know that. But you also said you've got some teenagers. Now, I think that it's so important to kind of know your ideal student, like who you really want to teach, but that doesn't mean that you are not able to accept other students, right? But when we're focused on who we want to teach, then it becomes much easier to attract those students. And if someone of a different age group or something that we can teach, but maybe we're not specifically like targeting comes along, we can take them on. It doesn't mean that you have to be so focused that, you're only teaching this particular student, but it can be. So I think that's really great. How did you fall into that niche of helping adults with business? Because that sounds pretty cool.
Right. Oh, yeah. So that's another great question. So I actually, when I started teaching for English institutes in Chile, so most of their clients were business English students. So when after the courses, my students would ask me if I could give classes to their colleagues, for instance, or their friends who are also adults. And then it's incredible how things just flowed. Like one, like for instance, like I've been teaching a circle of friends, but I've been teaching them separately,
Uh-huh.
so they're like they're either colleagues or group of friends. So yeah, it's just like at least like every week or every month there's a new student who texts
Right.
me and asks me like, oh, like I'm working for this company and I really need English classes. So like can we start next week or something like that. So so
Yeah.
Right. So I also wanted to comment that like, your point was very good. Like sometimes, especially if you're working independently, sometimes you'll never know like which types of students you're going to get. So it's important to be prepared for anything, especially that these days teaching English has different areas. So for example, you may teach English to adults, you may teach business English, or you may also teach English to young learners. Or for example, I have teenage students who want to prepare for English proficiency tests like the IELTS or TOEFL because they want to get into like university programs abroad, or they want to move overseas. So yeah, it's important to um, really like build your specialization, or at least be prepared for any type of students you're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. That's such good advice. So I want to come back to that and link it to something else in a few minutes. But there's a lot of teachers that, well, I didn't ask you this question before, but there's a lot of teachers that watch the channel and they might be from like a non-native English speaking country, or they're from somewhere where it might be harder for them to get like a job with a company. I'm inspired by your journey, and I'm just, what tips do you have for those teachers? Like, you come from the Philippines. I know that companies there pay very little, and it's sometimes hard for them to maybe branch off and do it on their own, because a lot of times, students are maybe looking for like an American teacher or something like that. Do you have any advice?
Right. So yeah, actually, yeah, that's a good question. So, honestly, like when I looked when I was looking for jobs in Chile, there probably was like a company who probably told me like, oh, we only accept native English teachers. So sometimes it could be disheartening, But I would say that there are opportunities out there. You
Yeah.
just have to keep looking, and as a non-native English teacher, you always have this advantage, because firstly you know what it's like to learn another language. So probably like the way you learned another language can also help you become a better teacher,
Mm-hmm.
right? And another thing is, even if you're not from the US or from the UK or Australia or countries where English is a first language, you can always step up and be competitive. Like you can always build your skills, and you can always have better strategies, because there's probably like a misconception these days that, like
Yeah.
if you want to learn English, like get a native English teacher. But, honestly, like it boils down to having a teacher who can really help you, and
Yeah.
has like good techniques to learn, or sorry, to help you learn the language better.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you, Grisel, for sharing that, 'cause that's so true. I think your perspective on the fact that you learned a language is so important, because if you're a non-native speaker, you have that, their struggles, right? So well. Excuse me. So absolutely. And I think a lot of it is believing in yourself. And, if you've got the skills and you know that you can do this, like, just believe in yourself. And like you said, take steps to maybe upskill yourself and be competitive. But it's so possible, and there is a market out there for you, and you're living proof that you can be successful. And so I really love that. I really want to talk about traveling and teaching online, because it's something that I do. I love to travel. I'm sort of a slow traveler, and I like to be in places for a long time. Hence why I was in
Yes.
Malaysia for a long time, and I've been in Thailand for 2 years. So I consider myself a digital nomad, but less of a nomad and sort of a more of a digital slow traveler. And I like to live in places for a long time. But where have you lived, and how do you make it work with teaching online? Give us some tips around that.
Oh, sure. All right. So, yeah. So, I started or I decided to become a digital nomad, as we call it,
Yeah.
when it was possible to travel again, because the pandemic started and we had some restrictions. So probably like 2 years ago, when travel restrictions eased a
Yeah.
bit, so I decided to travel. And so most of the time, I want to go to countries where there are waves, like
So you're a
because
surfer, yeah, for sure.
yeah, right. So, as a surfer, I definitely want to catch the best waves for sure. And yeah, so I also have friends who travel a lot, and they always tell me about this, like countries where, oh, you have to surf here, you have to go here, like it's amazing. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I really want to go there, but how, I also want to work, and I don't want to lose my job, and I also
Right.
want to have like my source of income. So yeah, like I decided traveling. I've been to different countries in South America and in the US as well. I lived in the US last year for some months. And yeah, so usually I started staying for some weeks, and now I stay in a country. For example, now I'm in Brazil, and I will stay here for a month, because
Okay.
like you, I also like slow travel now.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's been great so far. So it's also important to really organize your time. Well, probably you will ask me about tips for teaching and traveling, but yeah, like
Yeah. No, no,
I,
give it to us. Yeah, sure.
sure, yeah, well,
Organizing.
I've learned like so much just from traveling and teaching at the same time, like organizing your schedule, and really being disciplined in so many things, and like maintaining a very good work life balance, so things like that.
Yeah. So I took one surf lesson in Bali, like two and a half, maybe it was a little bit more, maybe 4 years ago. The very first, I did catch a little wave, but right after that, I got my toe stuck on like my toenail. It's really gross. Jammed into like this plastic thing that the cord is attached to, and
The
I had
leash.
it was really disgusting. I lost my big toe. So
Oh
that was
my
my surf experience.
god.
Not fun. But yeah, I know people that love surfing. It's was never my thing. But tell us about the best places to surf. Where's the best places you've been to surf?
Oh, wow. So, well, so many places. So, in
Yeah.
Chile, yeah, we have world-class waves in Chile, although water
Okay.
is cold,
I
right?
didn't even know that. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, so it's like one option. What else? Like Peru is also a very good country with a lot of
Okay.
waves, right?
Uh-huh.
And yeah, in Brazil, I always come back to Brazil because weather is amazing, and there are so many beaches, and the vibe is just so good.
Cool. What part of Brazil?
So this is a city called Florianopolis in the south of Brazil.
Florianopolis. I've never heard of it. Interesting.
Yeah. Have you been to
Very
Brazil,
cool.
Tim?
Well, this is the thing. I've never been to South America at all. So it's like a whole part of the world I've never been. I've been to a lot of countries. I've been to like all the Asian countries, I think every single one, and some European countries, Australia, but no, it's never South America. So I'll have to one day, right?
Yes. Is it in your bucket list though?
It is definitely like I want to go. Yeah, I just love living in Asia. So it's right now I can't see it, but I definitely want to. Actually, someone in the chat was living in Medellin in Colombia,
Mm,
and that's a really popular place for digital nomads and people working online. I think the weather's really good, the cost of living is really low, so I
yes.
think it's great. Yeah, but one of these days. So yeah, I'm not a surfer, but I do like anything to do with the ocean. So that's why Thailand is so great because our beaches are just awesome here as well. So
Oh, that's true.
yeah. So oh, that's so cool. So I'll tell the audience when I got connected with Krzl because Krzl actually works part-time remotely for a company called Bridge Education, right?
Right.
So what do you do there? Tell us about what you do there.
Oh, sure. So I work there as an international program advisor. So what I basically do is I also help teachers,
Wow.
whether it's about starting their own English teaching journey or moving forward as an English teacher. Well, Bridge has many different TOEFL and TESOL courses, for example, and so especially if newbies or newcomers, they're usually kind of clueless on which course to take, for example, or like because we have many different courses anyway. So what I do is I give advice and I help them choose the best course for their teaching goals or teaching needs.
Okay. We just have a question. Mary asked, "Do you Yeah, this is a good question. I was going to ask you actually. Let me bounce
Mhm.
back. I was going to ask you what your
Yes.
biggest challenge was as sort of a sort of digital nomad or traveling and teaching. But Mary asks, do you research the internet connectivity before you travel? And is that a challenge for you?
Yes, exactly. So I think that's a very good question, and thank you for that. So, well, yes, on the logistics side of things, one of the
Yeah.
biggest challenges I would say as a digital nomad is finding strong Wi-Fi or internet connection. But yes, to answer your question, I do research about internet connectivity and ways how to get internet and how to get like a backup, plan just in case. So there are different ways. So sometimes I Google, for example, like I want to work remotely from Florianopolis, for example, right? And then I
Okay.
check online, for example, for co-working spaces, and I choose, for example, when I choose a hostel or a hotel, I check the comments if the Wi-Fi or the connectivity is good. Also, another thing that has helped me recently is WhatsApp because there are WhatsApp groups. I've joined this group called Digital Nomads Florianopolis, and
Okay. That's cool. Yeah.
yes, and I've just discovered it because a friend told me about it, and she also works remotely. And then some people they ask like, oh, like do you know where I can work in this area, or like
Yeah.
where are some co-working places? So yeah,
Yeah.
those are ways. And I also try to get, let's say, like a SIM card with good
Okay.
internet, just in case the Wi-Fi connection is not that good.
Okay. When I started, those are all good tips. When I started, I was traveling in Vietnam, and I started working for this company called VIP Kid, and I was staying in a homestay, and the internet just like went out one day. I had only been with them for like
Oh
a week.
no.
Yeah, so oh my gosh, I had to like put on put all the gear, my laptop and everything to a backpack. I had to like bike over to this cafe. It was really busy. I had headphones. I looked like a complete weirdo because people were probably like, what is he doing? And at that time I was very new to online teaching, and I was very animated. Like I felt like I had to be really animated with the kids. It was a Chinese company, and a lot of they sort of kind of expected was, hello, how are you? And just a little bit over the top, right? So I was in this cafe. I felt like acting like a total fool, trying to like not draw attention to myself. But that was my horror story. I made it through 3 classes, saved the day. Thank you to that cafe in Vietnam. But do you have any horror stories?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, that actually reminds me of when I was here in Florianopolis in February as well, and I discovered that there is a cafe here with very good Wi-Fi. So it's very cool
Okay.
because there are tables outside, and it's in front of the beach. So you have this like cool view of the beach. So I started my classes about, oh yeah, like so my the internet is very good. I'm gonna work here. I'm gonna give my classes from here. And then
Yeah. I think you're having are you having Wi-Fi issues, Grisel? You've just frozen. Let's see. We'll bring her down. I'll add her to the stream if I see her moving again. Katie asks, "Hi, Katie. Katie's in Japan. Do you use co-working spaces? Would love to hear where you find places to work." Yeah, I'll ask her that if she comes back. But I love co-working spaces. I don't really have access to many in my neighborhood where I am, but they're always really great. And sometimes they have like private rooms as well where you can teach from and things like that. Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. Definitely have backup internet. I've had to hotspot from my phone. Yes. Thank goodness for hotspotting, right? That has happened to me for sure many, many times. In Costa Rica, you must watch the weather because the internet can be affected. Yeah, and I wonder as well. My South African friends that might be watching always often have an issue with load shedding. I think it's called, where you might have certain times when the internet is not so good. And I think that might been a time, Gazelle, when your internet was not so good.
this is one of the horror stories that I
There
probably
you
can
go.
share.
I was thinking that. I was like, oh, poor Griselle. I'm good at like ad libbing. I can keep it going. So no worries at all.
Yeah, you did it
Are you
great.
okay?
So, yes, I'm fine. So okay, so this is funny. Like recently, so like my Wi-Fi crashed, and I'm connected to my mobile device right now. So
Okay.
can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, everything's good. Yep, yep, yep.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I
So.
wanted to link
Mm.
back to your comment earlier about upskilling yourself. Because you work for Bridge, I got in touch with Bridge to, I've been an affiliate for them for their TEFL course for quite a while. And recently I learned all about these micro-credential courses. And they're very inexpensive when I was looking at them. And then someone at the company said, you got to talk to Grisel. She's traveling and teaching and she's doing all these cool things. So that's why I had you on the channel. But I wanted to ask you about those courses. And I was able to get a discount code as well for folks that wanted to check them out. So what tips would you give for teachers that maybe are like, they've been teaching for a while and they want to maybe charge more or get really like scale a little bit more? Like what tips would you give them in that area for sort of
Right. Mhm.
scaling and growing?
Oh, right. Okay, very good question. So, yes, as I mentioned before, like teaching English nowadays has many different areas and different fields. So, there are also different types of there are students with different needs. So, for example, some of them want to improve their business English or improve in business English because they use it for their jobs, for example. So they're looking for teachers who can teach that specifically or help them use English in the workplace. For example, what else? There are also students who want to prepare for English proficiency tests, for example, and there are
Mm-hmm.
also students who want to um, improve specific skills such as listening skills, for example, or their pronunciation, right? So
Okay.
with that said, so we actually have different courses that can help you with that. I also want to stress that it's important to build their skills or build your niche in order to um, not just not only to scale or grow your business, but also to stand out. So as you remember, we were talking about teaching as a non-native English speaker, for example, or even if you're a native English speaker, it's also important, to stand out in a sea of teachers, especially
Yeah.
online, right? And to be able to um, really uh in general build your skills and really have this skill set that you can use in different contexts. So
Right.
yeah, right. So mhm,
So,
go ahead.
and sorry if I'm interrupting you.
No worries.
Bridge offers those like these little courses that will give people little certifications that would help them in that. Is that what I'm understanding?
Mhm.
Okay.
Exactly right. So the good thing about these courses is that they're short and they're also self-paced. So it means that even if you're working full-time or even part-time, you can take these courses at any time, and you have enough time to complete them. And then after completing these courses, you can get your certificate, and obviously you'll gain the skills that you need, right? So for example, we have short courses in teaching uh, English proficiency tests, like we have micro credential courses in teaching IELTS preparation, TOEFL preparation,
Oh,
even PTE exam prep. So that's one. We also have specialized courses in teaching business English or specialized courses in teaching English to young learners and teenagers, for example. What else? So, for example, we have short courses in developing games and activities for the online classroom. So if you're already teaching English online and let's say you want to get fresh ideas or if you want to make your classes more engaging or more interactive, so there are short courses that can help you with that as well. So there's a person behind me that was
don't worry about it. I saw walking through the green screen. Yeah. Um,
right. Yes.
the what about business English? Because that's something that you're doing, right? So is that a micro course that Bridge provides?
Exactly. So, well, this is actually a specialized course. Well, you can see it on our page as well. So, this is a 60-hour course that uh, gives you training in basically developing your business English lessons. Like, for example, different strategies for teaching business English students, or how to plan your lessons, for example, or teaching using 21st century teaching skills, for example. So that's a specialized course.
Okay, cool. So you mentioned a lot there, like gamifying your classroom, IELTS prep, TOEFL prep,
Yes.
PTE, um, business English, teaching what else? Teaching to young learners and teens. So if someone is watching and is interested in upskilling, because I offer this free course for teaching online, just kind of getting started, and people often ask me like, do you provide a certificate? No, I'm not accredited. This is just my own course that I created to help teachers.
Mhm.
But if you're looking for some certification, a certificate or something you can put on your resume, would these be like little micro courses that would help to online teachers?
Yes, definitely. Right. Exactly.
Hmm.
So, right. Especially nowadays, that you would want to have many credentials on your resume, for example, because as
Yep.
I mentioned, like you have to stay competitive, and you have to keep growing and keep learning, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can definitely post them on your resume. And it's I also want to mention that it's important that you get your certifications from an accredited course provider. So for example, bridge courses are accredited. We have accreditations um, from Asset, which is based out of the US and is also recognized
Okay.
by the US Department of Education. We have another accreditation from Aqueduto, which is based out of the UK, for example. So these are important because, especially if employers or potential employers want to verify your certificate, so they actually look at the accreditations, or they check if your courses come from a reputable course provider.
Yep. Yep. Great. So I just put the link to the micro course website, and we can maybe just for a brief second, I won't hopefully bore anyone with this, but you can go, it's really easy to search for the courses. I just had a look earlier. So when you go
Yes.
here to the link, you can click explore. Tell us what to do next, Grisel.
Right.
Go.
Okay. Yes. Go to TOEFL programs. That's the second
Yep.
line. Right. And you can see the tab that says micro credentials.
Uh-huh.
Yes. There you go.
There we go. So then you can see them all. And I mean, let's just go to like for fun. Let's just go to like, okay, let's go to IELTS. A lot of teachers are very interested in IELTS. So
Yes.
you can see that, I mean, this is, you know, really affordable, right? Like 29 bucks,
Yeah.
and you get a discount of 10% with my code there, OTD10. So very affordable, 20 hours teaching IELTS. That's just an example. I don't know. Cool. That's awesome. Let
Right.
me. Was there
I
anything
also
else there you wanted to mention, Crizel?
Yes, so I also want to mention that you can take these courses at any time or whenever you're ready. And yeah, so if you want to upskill now, just go for it.
That's great. And I had a question from my friend Kinga here.
Let's
I
see.
wonder if Crizel uses social media to market her classes or relies more on word of mouth. Good question.
Oh yes, yes, I agree. That's a very good question. All right. So, currently I don't have my social media page for teaching English, but I would like. It's really in my plans. Like I would like to have one and to start
Yeah.
one. I'll definitely do that very soon, right? So, usually, I get my private students through word of mouth, and also, well, this is also funny because in our surfing community I have a lot of students who are also surfers. And
Yeah,
that's
that's cool.
because, yeah, so sometimes when I meet someone, and then he or she asks me like, so what do you do? And then I just say, oh, I want to sorry, I say, oh, I teach English, or I'm an English teacher. And they tell me, oh, I want to learn English, like I've been looking for an English teacher for such a long time. And then they become my students. So that's another
I
way.
get that all the time. Living in China, living in not well, a little bit in Malaysia, living in Thailand all the time. But I'm very like I'm only teaching the Chinese market right now, only during specific hours, just because I'm really
Hmm.
busy with other things. So
Nice.
I could teach English all day here and on my own. Word of mouth, it's amazing, but you do have to get those first couple students. And I think what you just said about the surfing community is good because start with your local community, whatever you do. You know, if you start showing up and saying, I'm an online whatever teacher and I have a business, I mean, people will start to say, hey, I know someone that might know someone. And, you know, I think that's really great. So social media is good too, especially if you want like, you know, a funnel of students, like when students leave, if you kind of want to keep building that student base and not always relying on referrals, but referrals are really good to grow too. So, and you mentioned when we talked last week that you actually have gotten students from your Instagram.
Yes, exactly. So yes, that's true. So sometimes when my friends mention me to their friends, for example, they contact me through Instagram. So that's a very good tool. And I also know many other independent teachers who have their own social media, for example, their own Instagram page, for example, and they have gotten learners through their page because what they usually do is they share tips. You know, have you seen these Instagram posts about learning English or like
Totally,
tips
yeah.
from right? Yeah, that's like also a good marketing tool because like teach students end up checking your page and then they see that, oh, I can actually take classes with this teacher. So yeah, you can
Yeah,
also attract students.
that's great. That's great. Cool.
Yeah. Do you have your
Um,
Instagram
we
page?
Yeah, we are. I've kept you longer than I said I would, Grisel.
Yes,
But
that's
I
okay.
put your Instagram. How can folks maybe get in touch with you if they wanted to ask you a question or something like that? I put your Instagram below. Is that the best way?
Yes, yeah, feel free to share that. And yeah, you can feel free to reach out to me. You can also check out Bridge on Instagram. We also have our Instagram page as well.
Okay. You've been so helpful, Crizel. It's been really, really fun chatting with you. And I'm sure we could talk forever about travel and online teaching and all those great things. So, really appreciate you coming on the show and giving us some of your time. And thanks so much for offering just some really great tips and advice to the
Mhm.
listeners. I see you've got lots of things going on, so we'll let you get on with your day.
They're actually fixing the Wi-Fi,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's always a headache. This is the thing with like working at home, right? Like don't worry about it. Don't feel um yeah, embarrassed by it. It's normal life that these things happen.
right. Keep calm.
Yeah. Yeah. So, thanks again. I mentioned you before. I've never seen someone's name without any vowels in it. So that you have the coolest name, hands down, that I've ever come across. So, yeah, there you go.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you, Tim, for having me. It's
You're
been a
very welcome.
pleasure, right? I'm also happy to share my experience. It's also been great meeting you and sharing my experience with you
Yes.
too.
Yes, awesome. Thank you so much, Grisel. We'll let you go and have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care.
You too. Thank you and goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, Grisel. Thank you so much again, Grisel, for coming on the show. It was really great to chat with her, and I hope you were inspired just by her desire to upskill herself and become a better online teacher, and how she's just transitioned from working maybe with language institutes to going out on her own, from the Philippines moving all the way to South America. I think that's just so cool. And yeah, that was really, really great. So if you're interested in some of those micro credential courses, again, the link is in the description of this video. If you're watching the replay, it will be down below. If you're watching live, I will stick it in the comments again here. And you can use the code OTD10 for a 10% discount off of any of those micro-credential courses. Bridge also does various webinars if you'd like to register for those. I saw Katie mention that they do some great webinars, which is true. And one of the courses that I've promoted for a long time with them is I think it's called their 150-hour TESOL or TEFL. I can't exactly remember the name, but it works really well if you're needing a TEFL certificate. It's a little bit more on the expensive side than some of the micro-credential courses, but a great investment for you and your teaching business if you would like that. So go check out that and go and follow Krzl and her surfing journey. She's got some amazing surfing pictures on her Instagram, and follow her and get in touch with her if you have any questions. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. And we'll see you next week with another great interview. And again, I'll say it again, if you've got a story to share and you want to come on the show, feel free to reach out to me. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day teaching or doing whatever you're doing.